US Defence Secretary Lloyd Austin is resuming duties after being admitted to ICU for an infection after prostate cancer surgery. The Pentagon is still trying to explain why no one at the White House was notified of his sudden absence, prompting calls for his resignation.
If you're going to call out sick from work, most people have to let their boss know. But that's not what happened when U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was admitted to the ICU last week for an infection following surgery from prostate cancer. The White House and Commander-in-Chief not finding out until 4 days later.
That's a serious breach of trust. I think Joe Biden should be calling for his however they want to handle it. But this guy shouldn't be in charge of our military now.
And those calls are growing louder.
This is inexcusable that the man that is advising the president and is the senior most executive overseeing our Department of Defense was basically AWOL.
The Pentagon says when Austin went in for a procedure on December 22nd, he transferred some of his authority to his deputy without telling her or other U.S. officials why. Their explanation for why the White House wasn't notified: a key staffer was out sick with the flu.
I want to underscore again that Secretary Austin has taken responsibility for the issues with transparency, and the department is taking immediate steps to improve our notification procedures.
I do think that he should submit his letter of resignation. I think that he not only was derelict in his duties, but he was also deceitful about it.
Despite those accusations, Biden officials insist the president is standing by Austin as he remains in the hospital in good condition.
The president has full confidence in the secretary.
The White House is also launching its own review of cabinet protocols for delegating authority.
And joining me now live for more on this is Sky News US analyst Michael Ware. Michael, thanks for joining us. How does the Defence Secretary go in for surgery with his deputy on holidays in Puerto Rico and then actually fail to tell anyone about it?
Yeah, look, I have to tell you, this is a particularly befuddling lapse in transparency and seems to me to be completely unnecessary. Now, let's be clear. When the Defense Secretary went under general anesthetic, he transferred his authority to his deputy, who happened to be, as you say, on holiday in Puerto Rico. She was never told that the secretary was in surgery. And then when the infection kicked in and he had to be re-hospitalized, there was still a lack of notification. Now, look, I've only met General Austin a few times during the Iraq War, but I can tell you this. He's a soldier's soldier and a general's general. He follows orders and he follows the rules, yet at the same time, he's also an incredibly introspective leader. Unlike other secretaries of defense, he doesn't hold a lot of press briefings. He doesn't do a lot of media. He's always held his cards close to his chest. So is this a personality thing where he failed to inform and make a simple phone call directly to the president? Or is this more systemic? I suspect, even though we don't know the details, this has more to do with General Austin's or Secretary Austin's personality than a broader failure in the system.
All right, because it's interesting, as you mentioned, he didn't actually tell the president, or he did tell him until, but only at 3 weeks after his surgery. What does it say then about their relationship that he wasn't upfront with the president from the very beginning?
Well, that's a great question, and one wonders. But I do think it comes back to the point I raised earlier. I suspect this is more about General Austin's inherent guardianship of his privacy than anything else. Clearly, this was a lapse in judgment. Like we say, simply a phone call to the commander-in-chief, because under U.S. law, the Secretary of Defense holds national command authority, second only to the commander-in-chief, the president. So technically, was there ever a breakdown in the chain of command, given that he'd passed on authority to his deputy? Perhaps not. But in the midst of two wars that America's involved in Ukraine and in Gaza, it's the perception of a failure in the chain of command that could be more damaging than whether there actually was a failure or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Perception is the key here. In your view, is it unusual for this kind of oversight in what is typically a very structured nature of the military and the Pentagon?
Yeah, this does strike me as extraordinary. And even given General Austin's personal reticence to share anything about his private life, this does strike me as something out of the ordinary. Right now, with the information that we have, and even given the general that I know, I honestly cannot yet explain this. And already inquiries are being launched to answer that very question.
OK, well, we will certainly await the findings of that fascinating story. Michael Ware, thank you so much for joining us.